According to Mark, the next thing Jesus said was after some dudes lowered their paralyzed friend through a hole in the roof at the place Jesus was preaching to a packed crowd. Mark says that when Jesus saw their faith, he spoke to the paralyzed man. Now, I happen to think that Jesus was a pretty perceptive guy, and he noticed a few things about this particular fella. Now, first, he had enough faith in the outcome of this stunt to risk his life for it. Because if you are already paralyzed, and a few of your knucklehead buddies accidentally drop you off of a roof, it's not going to end well. But Jesus saw that not only did this guy believe in Jesus and his friends, but his friends believed enough, or I should say, had enough faith to carry off this ridiculous stunt. So Jesus says to the man, "Your sins are forgiven." The Greek word used for sin is hamartia, which was originally an archery term that meant to miss the mark. The word for forgiven is Afiyami, which means to let go or release. Basically, when Jesus told people that their sins were forgiven, knowing full well that God never created a hell for eternal torment, but that humans punished themselves based on their perception of limitation from the shadows of shame and guilt, he was basically saying, sure, you screwed up, but don't sweat it. It's all good. Start living again. Versions of this story are told in the second chapter of Mark, the ninth chapter of Matthew, and the fifth chapter of Luke, as well as a somewhat similar story in John. In Luke, the knucklehead buddies also lower the paralytic through the roof, but in Matthew, they're just carrying him around, apparently hoping to stumble upon a miracle worker. In John, Jesus approaches a guy hoping to win the race to an intermittently magic fountain where every now and then an angel flies down and touches the fountain, and the first person that touches the water gets healed. The guy in John had been sick for 38 years, hoping to make it to the water before everybody else every time that demented angel made his little flyby. Jesus didn't say your sins are forgiven to him. He just said, do you want to get well? And get up, pick up your mat, and walk. But in the synoptic gospels, Jesus says your sins are forgiven. And that sends lawmakers, scribes, and Pharisees into a tizzy, questioning how Jesus could claim that such authority, for only their understanding of God was capable of such things, and they weren't actually doing any healing or performing miracles. These days, they would be likened to fundamentalists, Bible thumpers, and the religious right who can't stand it whenever anyone tries to have a relationship with the divine outside of their Roman orthodoxy, since they only have faith in their limited understanding and haven't yet realized a deeper faith in God. Jesus can feel their discomfort and decides to try and blow their tiny little minds. In Mark and Luke, Jesus asked the men, why do you raise such questions in your heart? But in Matthew, he says, why do you think evil in your hearts? Because Matthew didn't play. Then, just like in John, Jesus says, stand up, take up your bed, and go home. In Matthew, he first speaks directly to the religious folk who want to limit the power of God to their limited understanding first. He says, which is easier to say, knowing that this type of person always takes the easy route? Your sins are forgiven, or rise up and walk. But so that you may know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins, he says to the paralyzed man, stand up, take up your bed, and go home. If he had a mic, I'm sure he would have dropped it. In the Synoptic Gospels, everybody was amazed and said, we've never seen anything like it, and we've seen strange things today. But John speaks of the religious folk getting even more uptight. And of course, the only two healing miracles in John's gospel occur on the Sabbath. The Jewish leaders told this guy who has crawled to a pool for 38 years and who can finally walk that it's the Sabbath day and the law forbids him from carrying his mat. The guy didn't really know who Jesus was and had no faith in Jesus per se. But when he tried to tell the zealots about the guy who healed him, telling him to take up his mat and walk, he couldn't point them to who they needed to punish for not going through them to get to God. But later, Jesus finds the guy at the temple. And since he forgot to mention that his sins were forgiven, like he does in the synoptic gospels, Jesus says to him, "See, you are well again. Stop sinning, or something worse may happen to you." Now, John is a bit of an extremist because that is just downright gangster. This guy has been dragging himself to a fountain administered by a sociopathic celestial being, continually failing at achieving his one singular goal for 38 years. And Jesus says that he needs to straighten up or it'll get worse. Now, this probably rubbed the guy the wrong way a bit because when he went to the Jewish leaders and told them who Jesus was, in the most recent of the 1,000 or so English language versions of the Bible, the Mirror Bible, a work in progress, it translates what Jesus said as, "Do not continue in your old distorted mindset. Then nothing worse can happen to you." As Christian development has progressed since Christianity was violently enforced upon the world through 7 crusades and 6 centuries of inquisitions, many are opening to the messages that have been hidden in plain sight for all of these years. Overwhelmed by the dogma and doctrine manufactured by the Roman Empire through Paul's gospel about Jesus Christ, the more recent understandings of Jesus, divorced from the rhetoric of Paul, lead many to think Jesus could tell people they were forgiven of their sins because it is a universal truth for all of us. All we need to do is embrace the mindset to realize it. This is also the first of roughly 80 times that Jesus refers to the Son of Man. He does not credit this experience to being the Son of God, nor does he ever, but as the Son of Man, recognizing that all of us, other sons of men, could do the same thing.